Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another insightful intergroup webinar. Before I get going, as is traditional, I'd like to add in some context: who we are, why our opinion matters, and why the show was so important, actually, as well. So, next slide, please, Pablo. So, Intergroup Partners, we are an international services firm. We enable innovative, forward-thinking companies and investors to secure growth. We have more than a decade of experience, probably 12 or 13 years now, and the references to go with that across the 6 key areas that we deal with. So we deal with energy, mobility, healthcare, security and aerospace, IoT and industry, and retail. So we are based in Zurich, but you will find us in the UK, in Germany, in Spain, USA, and Japan. We are truly an international outfit with links to many, many markets. So we have, very much in keeping with the flavor of today, ours is a combined strength. We are a team of entrepreneurs and senior professionals with a huge amount of combined experience across a number of different industries. So what? I hear you cry. Well, we're torchbearers in how to apply trends and technologies to new markets and new regions and new business propositions as well. We have a demonstrable track record in creating profitable partnerships, and I guess that's what's important to bear in mind as we go through this deck. So, mega trends at IFA 2018. This year, there was quite a lot of pre-show doom merchants once again trying to write the show off a few months before it even began. There would apparently be fewer companies showing less products, showing a smaller show in general, lower footfall, less interest, but expectations have been defied yet again. And IFA 2018 has provided an increase in exhibitors and an increase in square meterage and an increase in footfall over the last year. So when we look at IFA, we look at some key areas, I guess, and they'll come into the presentation as I talk. We'll talk about smart home and home networks, a bit on robotics, quite a bit on distribution actually, touching on digital health, a bit of lifestyle, and so on. So without further ado, Pablo, let's get busy with the first one. So one of the headlines on August 31st at the start of the IFA show was in the daily IFA update, and it's the very first thing that caught my eye and clearly describes the flavor of the entire show this year. It encapsulates the idea that innovation is not confined to any one home market. Technology-driven innovation is at its best when jumping industry barriers, finding new and previously unthought of applications and propositions. The importance of using available innovation in this way in your marketplaces cannot possibly be overstated. The lesson from this is super simple. Apply your technology and your proposition to new verticals and new markets while you can. To quote the CEO of IFA, and this is a quote, "Nowadays, hardly any company can innovate without partners, alliances, or open ecosystems. That brings a new mindset and heralds the age of co-innovation." It's something that Intergroup is very familiar with, and we commend it as a course of action to all of you. Now, megatrend number 2, Pablo. I ask you guys to bear with me for this because this is not something that's been widely reported by journalists at the show. It's something that exists underneath the surface, but it applies to pretty much every form of innovation, and every major corporation are now considering this. And as such, it's an underlying factor for the entire show. Predictions from industry analysts suggest that retailers and brands alike will rely on some sort of multi-format portfolio to capture future growth. As markets enter this postmodern retail period, kickstarting a positive cycle based on multi-format consumer experience is likely to prove critical for brands and for retailers. Now, for retailers and indeed for brands, the acquisition of brands to sell is the simplest way. The more you sell, the more you advertise, the more you'll retail. It's a simple proposition. However, this flies in the face of reality at this moment in time. Traditional distribution channels are increasingly risk adverse, not vice versa. And margins are declining and markets are stagnating. It's very difficult to get new and interesting propositions seen. Virtual distribution with a small v and a small d has been in existence as a very different, very limited idea since the late 20th century. The earliest example I can find, and it's worth searching out if you can find it, is from AT&T, and it was an advertisement, a video called Rubber Eyes. Essentially, virtual distribution at the time, as AT&T saw it, was online selling. But it's a very interesting and significant development when you consider where we are now. Virtual distribution now, capital V, capital D, is a new process that allows for risk-free extension and the beginning of a positive consumer cycle. In its very purest form, it allows retailers to range and sell almost any product from any vertical without carrying any stock risk. Products are bought and sold in the usual way, but fulfilled directly from manufacturer to consumer. Virtual distribution is the disposal of the traditional distribution framework, not the evolution of it. But it retains the traditional relationship between brand and consumer. So the trick is managing everything in between: listing tools, stock availability, image management, information flow, invoice handling, credit risk, returns, etc. But all of this can be done virtually from another location. In essence, the supply of incremental brands, product lines, and revenue to any online or hybrid organization without the associated cost or risk of distribution. We at Intergroup have more than one client involved in this at this moment in time, and both implementing and supplying this particular technology. And such, it represents the future of distribution. If we can consider it very briefly, I would consider it the API economy as regards physical goods rather than services. Hello, next slide. While we're talking about the API economy, we should probably discuss the API economy full stop, capital E. The theory behind it is it enables a connection from anything to everything. An API is an application programmable interface. I'm sorry if you already knew that, but essentially it allows the creation of applications which access the features or data of another operating system, application, or service. The economy part of the term API economy refers to the management of resources which are always scarcer than required. This trend exploded into life last year, but it continues to develop at an exponential pace and is evident all over the IFA show. So, as an example, Amazon this week referenced the importance of API support to partner new organizations across different industry segments, with automotive, hotels, and office environments called out specifically by Daniel Rausch. It is clear, therefore, that the key to Amazon's sustained growth up until now and to combat Google's dominance in the out-of-home arena is the API economy. Google already drives API integration for all of its major projects in all of its environments, but with the improvements coming thick and fast, all the way from Android to zero. And even though it might not quite qualify, as the announcement was just pre-IFA, but Facebook and WhatsApp announced the launch of a B2B API just before the event started. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it enables companies to exchange messages generated by advertisements directly with WhatsApp users. WhatsApp charge on a per message basis after the first 24 hours of communication, but 100+ businesses are already allegedly directly supported on the API platform, and Uber and Netflix are at the forefront of that particular trial. This is another example of APIs enabling and driving businesses from one company to another. Apparently, also included in the trial are sports companies, airlines, e-commerce giants, and banks alike. The need to drive APIs to expand a business proposition exists also for smaller companies, especially those producing innovative consumer solutions, for which scale and visibility are key. Using APIs, this can be achieved while providing partners with low-risk expansion opportunities, adding in new consumer-facing capabilities and new revenue streams. It is, in fact, the urgency to create new business models across markets and industries that drives the API economy and vice versa. Next slide, please, Pablo. Oh, this is a good one, and it's ongoing. Megatrend number 4 are the strategies to establish ecosystem dominance. Choosing a smart home ecosystem as a consumer is not rocket science. It has simplified greatly over the last 12 months or so. The big three all have solid offerings and advantages. Amazon has proliferation on its side.
Hello, I think you are on mute.
Oh my word. Thank you, Montserrat. I didn't know that. The confusion around new devices, such as fuel cells, electric car chargers, and other future home compatibility is fading away from this ecosystem. Where services are controlled directly by utilities, the back-end interface will be there, with devices controlling the front end accessible to consumers. Similarly, carrier network supplied consumer devices, from Vodafone for example, simply plug into your choice of mobile interface. These ecosystems are essentially glue. They connect a broad number of solutions together and allow a hub control experience for automations that the consumer wants. It's a question of selecting the devices that most work for you and checking the box for compatible with X, Y, or Z, or indeed vice versa if that's your preferred method. If a device is not supported by your chosen ecosystem, there will be one released in pretty short order. But the interesting thing that came out of the show is the competition is now on to control the upstream from the ecosystem. Enablement through router provision. Announced at IFA were the Amazon Alexa routers, plus compatibility partnerships with Huawei, with Netgear, and other mesh routers. Previously announced Google Mesh is now available on the market with very positive reviews. Mesh, by the way, is a system that allows blank spots in the home to be eliminated without the need to set up Wi-Fi extenders or additional home networks. The lesson is that uninterrupted internet coverage for your ecosystem is going to result in a better consumer experience, better loyalty, and better uptake of that system over the others. This is a brand new area of competition for Amazon, Apple, and Google over the coming 12 months. As an aside, before we move on, it's worth pointing out, I think, that Samsung Connected Home has been providing mesh for 12 months, but with a very limited device portfolio. Pablo, next slide, please. So, in line with IFA's opening press, much is being made of the power of cooperation, as Google and Amazon fight out for the virtuous cycles driven with partner manufacturers. Google and Amazon both clearly believe that voice is the dominant interface, especially with 5G around the corner. Amazon's keynote speech in IFA 2018 was delivered by a guy called Daniel Rausch. Daniel is Amazon's VP of Smart Home, and he concentrated exclusively on Alexa. From conception, inspired apparently by Star Trek, up to and including the future, safeguarded and driven by Amazon's self-sustaining growth model that Amazon uses to support itself and its partners. Rausch was really careful to point out the benefits of operating with Amazon as a partner, with a 43% average uplift in business during the following 9 months for any partner launching an Alexa-enabled device. That, if we add in the works with Alexa compatibility to an existing device, that gives you apparently a 53% rise in business inside 6 months. So the power of partnership clearly works both ways. Temi is a groundbreaking, very well received automated personal assistant. And it's been described by journalists as an Amazon Echo show on wheels. But its voice recognition software is not as good as Google's. So what is Temi doing? It's now integrating Google to make itself more appealing to a broader customer base. And speaking of Google, they are absolutely everywhere at this year's show. In almost every corner you look at, and on center stage themselves with the Home Max device, with the announcement of Wear OS updates, bilingual updates for Assistant, and plenty of new partnerships, including devices alongside JBL, integration with Harman Kardon, LG, etc. Partner strategy is also key for Google. Since CES this year, the number of connected partner devices for Assistant has rocketed from 1,000 to over 5,000. That's less than 6 months. Amazon may have 20,000 partner devices, but momentum seems to be on Google's side. In addition, Google Assistant is everywhere, not just the home, but it provides access to a whole set of different ecosystems. Next, please, Pablo. So I wanted to talk about robotics as well. So human interfaces and robotics are now consolidating, and previous shows over the course of this year have showcased cobots, for example, as industrial partners for human workers. LG this year displayed something called a SuitBot. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side, it's an exoskeleton suit. Now, these aren't especially big news on their own. Hyundai designed one in 2015. The US military have done it before as well. Both, I guess, aimed at improving the strength and the durability of industrial workers or soldiers while minimizing injuries. This one, however, is designed in collaboration with a company called SG Robotics. And the SuitBot is unique in that it effectively mimics natural human movement, but more importantly, has LG's artificial intelligence built in. Now, this AI analyzes your biometric information, which is the game changer. This biometric information flow allows the suit to adapt to user movement over time, to aid and provide better support for the user, and to provide medical information and readouts and updates for medical and healthcare personnel as well. So as well as healthcare, the mid to long term includes distribution and industrial use cases, it's true. At the other end of the marketplace, we can see the advent of partnerships and consumer experience driving the lower end of the robotics. So, for example, robot hoovers, they now include improved mapping, voice control, pet-friendly functionality. I'm not quite sure what that is. There wasn't too much description. But the consumer experience is what's being focused on rather than the basic functionality itself. Again, another key theme of the show. Next, please, Pablo. So, I think this is the most exciting one, actually. The current market for wearables is split into two dominant categories. Proprietary systems such as Fitbit and Garmin's new wearables, and smartwatches on the other side, the best of which support third-party applications, but which are incorporating more and more health and fitness capabilities. Google OS, Android Wear, Apple smartwatches are still best positioned to monetize via this ever-expanding wellness, lifestyle, fitness app ecosystem. Together, they control 75% plus of the market between them. But the key enabler for wearables is battery technology. The longer life breakthroughs are arriving via research at the likes of UCLA, for example, who've created a 3D battery architecture capable of producing micro batteries with the same power output as conventional lithium-ion designs. Cornell, meanwhile, states that it's close to a breakthrough with an instant recharge facility for these micro batteries. Essentially, it provides a full recharge for any device in 5 seconds or less. Also under development is lithium-sulfur batteries. Now, that's chiefly Korean-led, but the research uses fiber and carbon nanotube technology to create a foil-like form factor aimed specifically at sportswear technology. An enabler at IFA this year also is flexible screen technology, demonstrated most effectively by a Chinese company called Royole. Royole has been working on this since 2012 and has a curved screen Moon personal cinema headset to its credit so far. This latest technology on demonstration is 0.1 mil thick curved and flexible display technology. This has the power to supercharge the smart devices market applications, from consumer devices to transportation, fashion, sports, and education. Royal won't reveal if it's working with mobile phones as well, but the Galaxy X is rumored for Mobile World Congress in 2019, and it's a fairly good bet that Royal will have something to do with it. The wearable fitness market alone, and this includes garments and trainers and shoes, by the way, is expected to hit 48.2 billion in less than 4 years' time. The promised uplift in technology is likely to significantly help fully fledged healthcare wearables as well. Speaking of those, there were other unique application wellness devices in evidence at the show, most notably the cardio device range, which helps users and doctors monitor blood pressure, weight, body composition, ECG, respiratory rate, and more. From a more consumer perspective, Philips Health displayed a number of consumer-friendly devices, including air purifiers, a really interesting-looking sleep aid device, actually, designed to optimize sleep for those that get less than 7 hours a night, which I think is probably all of us on this call, and a connected light. Now, interestingly, datafied medicine as a piece of terminology has been emerging very quickly this show, with industry analysts predicting the rise of automated diagnosis engines. But practical examples of this reaching the market aren't in evidence yet, due largely to constraints that we talked about with hardware. Next slide, please, Pablo. I wanted to wrap all of that up in a final megatrend, and that is industry growth. Worldwide consumer electronics sales increased nearly 4% since the same period in 2017, from 967 billion to over $1 trillion worth. That's according to GfK. Now, that's an increase against a worldwide economic backdrop which has been poor in comparison. So the question is, what's driving it? 4K TVs, they had a massive growth surge. Smart speakers also reached 150 million unit sales in the last 12 months, which is a 230% increase. And I take you back to our discussion about ecosystem and voice control. And wearables as well, which are up 35% on the same period over the last year. So the reported revenue rises are due largely to higher average sales prices, which is the most interesting thing of all, particularly on the best-selling products, indicating that consumers, even now, seem to be willing to pay more and more for the best and the newest products, which is a lesson for everybody. With bandwidth increasing in 2019 for developing countries, with 5G just around the corner, with connected wellness and smart home devices proliferating, becoming more accessible and more practical, I guess, for consumer use, optimism is surrounding the IFA event. Ecosystems are taking huge steps forward in terms of the experience and the ease of use. Market delivery mechanisms are improving, and the ecosystem itself of consumer electronics is marching forward. So I think momentum will only continue to grow. This will only further encourage manufacturers to continue investing in innovative products and the trends that we've discussed today. So to close out, and in the context of what we've discussed today, I wanted to draw your attention to the three clear offers that Intergroup has. The first is revenue enhancement. The second is tech and partner scouting. And the third is mergers and acquisition scouting. We concentrate on two key areas here: profitable technology, leverage, business model constraints, and disruptive technology adoption. We offer market access, including at C-level. We offer a business development structure, production and operation, acceleration, and investment in market growth. All of that is wrapped up in our ability to transfer propositions directly between market verticals and regions. We can hop and assist you to jump any barrier that presents itself to your business. We, as a team, as a senior leadership team, there's 5 of us. Thanks, Pablo. I'm the ugly one, second from left. Please feel free to reach out to any of us for an informal discussion. We'd really like to talk to you about your business, your requirements, and thanks very much for listening. Unless there are any questions, Pablo?